Good morning, friends, and welcome back to my channel, In All Seasons Homestead. I'm going to share with you a little bit of what we've been doing in the month of October. We've been doing our school lessons outside as much as possible, of course with our chicks, trying to soak up all that sun and fresh air. These chicks have actually grown up quite a bit since this video. They're all feathered out and they get lots of attention. I've harvested this elderberry a while back and needed to make room for more peppers to dry out. This was my last quart of elderberries to do. Our solar dryer that we made seems to be working really well for elderberries and peppers. I've also been hang drying most of our clothes outside, especially jeans, towels, and blankets, mainly just to sneak outside and get some more fresh air. Another thing in October and into November is cleaning up the garden, space by space. The frost is about to hit in a few days, and I thought that we might as well start cleaning up little by little to get it out of the way. This was the cucumber trellis. I've already cleaned up the potato area and the tomatillos, the corn, things like that. So this day I decided to do the cucumbers and then my son's little raised bed garden next to the gate. It was really sad to see all that green go, but I knew that the frost would kill it off the next day anyway. It also felt good just to really tidy up the area anyway. I did leave his little pepper plants right there, and he harvested those off all by himself. One day as we went out to the Amish to get our ponies' hooves trimmed, we came back home with a drake, a hen, and little ducklings. I've been wanting Muscovy ducks for a long time now. That's the mama duck right there, and then we release the drake in a few minutes and get them all set up in their new pen. I spent several days in a row picking every pepper I could to preserve and to take in before the frost. I also sold a bushel to our local market. I've been canning pickled jalapenos and hot sauce. Right here I'm canning the hot sauce. It's basically red jalapenos, red serranos, vinegar, sugar, and salt. It's a very simple recipe. I've been making it a couple of years now. I just simmered the peppers in the vinegar. I blended it and then added the sugar. Cooked it down for a while. And I took out the seeds as much as possible. It's a very simple recipe. It doesn't take too much time, and you can eat this hot sauce with your favorite foods if you like spicy things. I'm gonna try the salsa on a chip right here just to test the sugar mainly. The spice is always high, but I don't like to make it too sweet. And then here you just fill up the jars with the hot sauce. And sometimes I leave a half an inch headspace, and other times I leave 1 inch headspace. I guess it depends on which recipe I'm using. I have 2 different hot sauce recipes that I like, and actually here I'm combining a little bit of the 2 recipes, kind of making it a little bit more the way I want it. So yeah, it's 1 inch of headspace here. And then we just process it for about 10 minutes. I think this year I have canned, I don't know, I want to say 10 pints and many half pints. I've kind of lost count. Maybe next year I won't need to can any, or maybe not as many. We'll see how long it takes us to get through this. And there is that red beauty. I'm very proud of it. It's just pure red peppers, no coloring, no additives, just the vinegar, peppers, sugar, salt. I think I said all the ingredients. And then this was my last little bit. It wasn't quite enough to can, so I went ahead and poured it into my recycled hot sauce jar. And here are my beautiful pickled jalapenos that I'm always proud of. I loved pickled jalapenos on just about everything. They're sliced in lengthwise and in circles. It's a pretty quick and easy process and recipe. Back outside, we let the calf out as much as possible. She is spoiled and growing quite fast. She loves to run around with the goats and the dogs. And here is our little buckling that we sold. So here we say goodbye to him, but he's off to a happy home. And I heard that there are many girlfriends there. We also had to say goodbye to this one-time mama. She had one beautiful calf, and for whatever reason, we tried to get her bred a few times, and it just never stuck, so we had to sell her. We loaded her up with no problem, just a little bit of grain and patience. Another thing in October and November, well, actually September also, just whenever we have time, is Coupe Cleaning. Getting coops and stalls cleaned out before winter. This is the turkey and the duck coop. I've cleaned the bedding several times this summer, but I wanted to give it a good power pressure wash. Haven't done that in forever. It was so fly poopy. I have to admit that it was very satisfying cleaning that out. We do want to give this coop a makeover and make it more predator safe. But for now, it'll just have to be deep cleaned and get rid of the fly poop and get it all snugly and warm for the winter. You can see there's a lot of mud dauber buildup, cobwebs. The window is actually so dirty you couldn't even see outside. You could just see blurs. Right there is how disgusting the window is. And there's the tom turkey strutting away. So now that I got it all cleaned out, I start power pressuring it. So the ducks are in one side of the coop and the turkeys are in the other side of the coop. So we've divided the house in half, and then sometimes we just have turkeys and then we can rotate them back and forth. Right now, since we bought those Muscovy ducks, their housing is going to be on one half for now. But this is a lot of dirt and fly poop buildup. Look at that. All that is fly poop on the door. So it was quite satisfying getting this all cleaned. It just makes me really happy to get stuff like that done. It hasn't been done for a long time. I also cleaned the outside of the coop just to try to get some of that pollen buildup off of it. And my overalls were covered after I was finished. And then I also dig out the stepping stones, and those were perfectly visible in spring. And then I'm going to clean up the mint. I try to plant mint around the chicken coop. Every time the chickens kind of scratch around, it just smells better over there. I was trying to keep away flies. Obviously that didn't work because you could see from the buildup. So I'm going to clean up the mint area and hang whatever I have left over inside the coop and make bundles of herbs hanging up. So there I hung up the mint. I think I hung up maybe 3 big bundles of mint. I didn't make them perfect. It's just for the chicken coop and it's just for an experiment. But I hung up mint, basil, and lemon balm, all left over from the garden. And actually that was 2 weeks ago, and when I went in today, it still smells so much better in there. I put fresh pine chips on the ground, and then with all the herbs, it's still smelling good in there. And obviously the temperature has dropped also. It's not quite as hot. These are my rose hips. I think I only got 2 or 3 trays worth. And I'm embarrassed to say that I did let a few go bad. I tried to do some experiments with them. It just didn't work, so I ended up drying out the rest of them. And the top herb is plantain. My son got hurt the other day, and I realized I did not have any more plantain to heal his little boo-boo. When he got his little boo-boo, I just got some right out of the grass and put it on his cut, and it just stopped bleeding in a couple of minutes. So I wanted to have some and during winter time in case I needed that again. So here are some green tomatoes that I took off before the frost, and actually I got a whole bushel of green tomatoes. Sorry that I held my phone the wrong way. And then I'm going to harvest the peanuts. I think right before I harvested the peanuts, I showed you a clip of the beautiful sweet potatoes. I'm not really sure how many peanuts we got. It looked like some plants had about 5 and some were probably close to 15. I think we only got about a gallon's worth of peanuts by the time I was done with them. They definitely did okay. It just was not quite enough for anything but just some fresh eating. But they did really well this year. I'm still proud of them. And I held my phone wrong again, but then I brought some comfrey inside and all my peppers and my last gallon of jalapenos, and there are the peanuts. So the next morning, was our first frost. It was a beautiful, crisp morning, no wind, very quiet and peaceful. But over in the shady areas is where most of the frost was. That is the last of the loofah. Turned a little black with that frost. The last of the flowers. And our bird bath even got frozen. I was not expecting that much ice on there. Those are the rose hip bushes and the lavender. And that's the sage. You can just see the frost melt off with my body heat. And the comfrey, which it came back up actually a couple days later. I started pulling out the peppers right there to the right. And this is the first frost. This is the first night. All of the tomatoes have already been picked off, or at least most of them. The second frost, the next night, my tomatoes completely turned black. And this is the sweet potatoes right here. The sweet potatoes turned black by day 2. So I went ahead and started harvesting them. I wasn't too worried about the frost hurting them. They were underground and it wasn't that hard of a frost. The ground was still very warm and soft. With this small raised bed, I really can't remember the dimensions of it. My husband built it for me, but I got a whole wheelbarrow full, and they were an impressive size this year. Those were about medium size there. Absolutely beautiful. I just couldn't be more pleased. There was a few small ones that could have gotten bigger with a little bit more time. But you'll see some massive ones here pretty soon. My daughter came out later to help me, and she was impressed with the size and the quantity of the sweet potatoes also. It was very fun pulling these out. And we had 5 minutes left of light. The sun went down really quick on us. Another thing this fall is planting garlic. I thought I was behind, but everything is working out well. I have the raised bed right here, and I filled up several rows, and I decided to plant some more in another location. So I just got that done and covered it up with straw. Got it all ready for the winter time. I like to plant my garlic in kind of a triangle pattern, staggering all the way down in a row. And I do have a little bit of hard-necked garlic planted, but mainly soft-neck. In the end of October, we've had a couple of storms. We've had at least 2 days of high winds. But one thing I failed to mention was that we were attacked by Asian beetles as the harvesting went on. Clouds of beetles were attacking the house, and there was 3 days worth of vacuuming them. So the cool, windy weather was very welcomed. It seemed to slow them down quite a bit. Another thing that I'm behind on is checking my bees. So I have 2 hives left this year. In this hive, I actually pulled out a few frames of honey that I hadn't got to yet. I did a quick inspection of this hive because it started raining on me 3 different times, and I would just have to throw the top of the lid on and then come back. So after 3 times of it raining off and on, I just had to give up on my second hive, so I'll have to check that on a different day. I don't really weigh my honey after I harvest it. I just say I got 1 honey super or 3 honey supers, or I see how much a 5-gallon bucket fills up. This year I've gotten almost 2 5-gallon buckets, and so I'm quite thankful for that. I did have a split at the beginning of the year, but that got taken over by wax moths. I've never had wax moths before, so that was very disappointing, but it's just another experience to learn from. Here is another day of garden cleanup. This was the green bean area. So after the frost, the green beans were all dry, crispy, and dead. So it was a lot easier to just rip them up real fast. And I pulled out all the plants. I got rid of them, and I started rolling up my weed fabric. And the ground is ready to till. And then here is my husband bringing me a bucket of manure. It just makes me really, really excited. I find myself smiling all the time when I see buckets full of manure, because I know what that is going to do later for me. To end off October, we went to a local corn maze. Looks like I had too much fun to film, or we got lost in the maze. Thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you next time.